Wow, there's so many people. This is amazing. I'm going to quickly introduce the panelists, and I'll give each of them, after I introduce them, a second to talk about sort of what they do and what's so special about them and why we wanted these specific people here. So starting on the far end, we got Omen, who is a LA independent musician and artist who does amazing stuff and sort of can like create stuff for independent artists themselves, which is a skill I think we all want and is great to have.
How's everybody doing? So my name is OmenXIII. I was born in Ohio, but pretty much raised in Riverside out here. And I've done a lot of traveling and stuff. I've been a musician since I quit my job at Amazon when I was 19. I'm 29 years old now. And it is very difficult if you don't come from a music background to find your place in and around the industry. And not only that, just the ebb and flow of, having time to be available, to be around and a part of the music scene, or feel as much a part of it as you can be, as you want to be. So, somebody that's been doing it for 10 years strong, I hope that I can provide some type of insight through my experience.
Next on down, we have Eli Flasher, imported from Minneapolis, and is the talent buyer and show maker at Lodge Room.
Thank you. I've been at Lodge Room for 2.5 years. I'm the booker. I book the bands there. I've been booking in the industry for almost 15 years, coming from First Ave in Minneapolis for a long time before I came out here in 2022. We are an independent venue, which is why I'm here tonight. That's it.
Cool. And keeping it going, Bailey Greenwood, been working in agencies for 12 years, currently at WME, represents artists like Toki Monsta and He, She, They, a queer inclusive collective that she represents.
Yeah, hi, I'm Bailey. I've been working at WME the last 3 years and came over from a small independent boutique agency, Liaison Artists, that was based in San Francisco. I actually fell into booking agency world by being a photographer, so I started out as an artist myself and kind of fell into this world, and it's been a wild journey ever since, and happy to be here.
And last but not least is Marina, who we all know and love as the Witching Hours, musician and promoter and booker and all-around scenester here in LA.
Hey everybody. Thanks, Zach, for that. My name is Marina. I book under the Witching Hours, which is an independent booking company and promoting a little bit, although it's not my favorite part about it. But I kind of fell into booking through a side way. I was DJing at a radio station and meeting a lot of bands, and I saw the need for people to organize events. People just started asking me, and I kind of cold called a bunch of folks. So it's 10 years later, or 11, next week, this is where I am. So really appreciate everybody that's been involved with planning this event, because I wish I had this 10 years ago for sure.
And that does bring up something that I wanted to ask you all. Show of hands, who is an artist? Sick. Show of hands, who is an independent artist, not with a label or a booking agency? So sick. So that's amazing. And I think that helps us guide our conversation. And I think with this group, we'll definitely all learn something. Which is dope. All right, so Omen, I'm going to start with you. And we were talking a little bit before this about your booking sort of your own tour in like a beautifully old school DIY way, yeah. which I love. And can you just sort of talk through?
We're just being told that your mic isn't coming through on the live stream, so can you borrow your mic?
Cool. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. Can you just talk through that and let us? Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, reviewing the question. So, the first tour that I ever booked was it was called Doubt Me Now, and really where it started was Facebook. I'm from the SoundCloud rap community, so like the beginning of that. Like for example, Lil Peep was one of my best friends. We used to sleep on the same like L couch. So like that whole like pocket of music, I have been around since its beginning. I'm just very much a background kind of guy, to an extent. Anyways, that was back in like 2015 when we really all started living together and stuff like that in Whittier. And as everybody got general popularity, you know, 10, 20,000, 30, 40, 50,000 plays on SoundCloud, these things were like motivating us to, you know, move in together and let's consummate our numbers all under one roof. And like now let's see if we can find a show together. If there's 5 of us doing this good, then now we can get into this little dive bar. And now if there's 10 of us doing this good, maybe we can go do a show at the Whiskey. Okay, but we're not even 21 yet, so we gotta pay like the bar fee because they gotta shut the bar down for the whole night, and it's already $1,000 for the night. Now it's 2 bands for the bar fee. Like, so like I get all of that shit, right? Now, like the first tour I did, when nobody knows who you are, like you just have to deal with that, right? Like that's how you move forward, and that's how you show people who you are, because they're not supposed to, not until you give them a reason to. When we got everybody together, we had like 9 different people, and the beauty of the internet, I guess for us at that time, it being a new thing, was I'm from over here, but they're actually from New York, and they're actually from Vegas, and they're actually from Texas, and they're actually from here and from there. So like I have friends all over the US that through the internet, I'd be like, what in your opinion is a cool spot to go to? Or what in your opinion is a cool spot to go to? Because online is just a list of places. You know what I mean? And like you don't know like the history or like this or that. So all of that stuff helped to kind of get past that, because you guys can ask more deep questions and stuff. The process was email all the venues. Tried that first. Realized that all these contact forms aren't even like direct, like, you know what I'm saying, means to reach out or make a good impression, to be honest with you. So between all of us going from place to place physically so people could take us more seriously, you know, Indie on the Move was also a huge help. So shout out Indie on the Move, wherever you are out there somewhere in that vast emptiness. They were a huge help. We rented a van on Bandigo for like $11,000, but the sprinter didn't even cost as much as the gas money. If you route 11,000 miles into a multiplier of $3, $4 or $5 for gas, you can figure out how much gas you're actually going to need, but it's diesel and not regular, so on and so forth. Last minute things happen. Always keep Guitar Center on hand if you need to rent a speaker. Like that's pro tip number 1. I mean, there's like so many things that like come into it, but that's just all connecting the dots. That's not even procuring the show, or like she was saying, the promotion, or you know what I mean? Like when you're starting and you don't have a relationship with these venues or with these people personally, you know, like that becomes the most important part of the job, because you represent yourself and your brand, and also those people that are like you. When you're not in the building, they're there for you. And when they're not in the building, you're also there for them. Like that's how you really grow that community, in my opinion. I'm getting off track a little bit here.
No, this is great. This is great.
Do you have another question so I can dismount gracefully?
I think we can shovel it to your left. And Eli, representing, I would say,
Thank
like...
you.
Eli, representing the sort of opposite end of that, like, literal email communication, and given that most of the people here are unsigned, can you talk about your interaction with unsigned bands and best practices, what you look for, what you don't look for, both at Lodge Room and in your experience generally?
Sure. So I mean, I get a lot of emails every day. It is a lot of people, a lot of bands looking to play shows. So for me, I mean, we're a one-person booking team at Lodge Room, so it's kind of on me to sort out most of that. And you know, we don't have a lot of local nights at Lodge Room. A lot of it is, more of it is kind of national touring bands. So the few nights during the month that I do local stuff, it's got to be, I'm looking for an artist who, has their ducks in a row. They're sending me a very concise one sheet. This is who we are. This is links to our, Spotify, or Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the last show in town we played. Obviously, being a for-profit venue, my overall goal is ticket sales. However, not every show I book is a winner, and that's just part of the game. So I'm looking for either a show that's going to sell tickets for me, or it's a very unique and cool artist. I think being an independent venue, I have some leeway as far as my programming goes, so I can take more chances on up-and-coming bands, newer acts. But for me, the main thing is just I get so many inquiries, so it's got to be, your first email to me has to be kind of pretty spot on for me to really give it a lot of my thought and my attention. So it's definitely an uphill battle for a lot of independent artists, unfortunately. But there also are a lot of venues in town, so if it's one place says no, hopefully something else will say yes for you.
Cool. And I think we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts of those things later on. But Bailey, as sort of spending your life as the glue between venues and artists, talk about your experience finding artists, when an artist should reach out, how an artist should reach out, how you find people, what is that relationship like? Yeah.
It's very open-ended, because I feel like there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to that. I've found artists so many different ways, whether it's me falling in love with their music and reaching out, cold calling them, or it's a manager approaching me and saying, hey, I just signed this artist that I think you should take a look at. Or, even if the artist doesn't even have a manager, that artist directly reaching out to me, which is a little bit rare cases, but sometimes works. I think for me, what's really important is if I, again, have a really clear understanding of who you are as an artist kind of at the first go, and once kind of speaking to the artists directly, or the managers of the team that's representing them, actually really understanding their story. I think outside of social numbers or streaming stuff, I really, really latch on to people's stories and what they're trying to convey and what they're trying to kind of show the world. And, I think I've signed artists who have, I've passed on artists with hundreds of thousands of followers to take on an artist with less, just because I felt like I really could support them and what their goals were. So again, it's not, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think, a lot of the time artists typically have managers before they kind of approach an agency. But again, there's artists that I work with that don't have managers still, and they're pretty big names. I won't say who they are, but surprisingly, they've been able to survive their career without it, and that's just how they choose to do their business. So again, it really just depends. But I think if you're really comfortable in what you're trying to say, that's shown really clearly to us, and that's when we're ready to kind of take the next step and really build out something for you to kind of show to the rest of the world. So
Cool. And yeah, we'll applaud. And Marina, can you talk about your role as a promoter, somebody who I think dips their toe into all three of those buckets in various ways, and sort of with a focus on maybe the importance of a local scene?
Yeah, really great advice from everybody. I think the biggest advice that I give folks who are booking themselves is provide as much information up front as you can. Do as much work for us as possible up front. Eli gets hundreds of emails. I got a lot of, this is all emailing job. So to stand out, you've got to prove that, you're clean, you're concise, you can easily explain who you are and what you do. And if you can even provide for me a lineup or lineup ideas, just so I get an idea, who's your community, what do you sound like? And that takes steps away from me as well, having to be okay, who could I pair them with? And then after that, what venue do I pitch it to? What venue would be a good fit? So the more you provide, I get a lot of emails that are hey, here's my new band. We want to be submitted for a support list. Just hit us up whenever we're a good fit for a show. And I'm I have a list of hundreds of bands that I'll add to the support list, but I don't, I rarely look at it because I'm working with the bands together to create a curated experience that everyone's really excited about, that they can all get all their friends to come out together and create a community. So a lot of people ask me, like, I don't even know who I would play with. I don't even know where I'd want to play. Like, how could I provide this information to you if I don't even have those answers? And that's totally fair. It's a big city, and there's a lot of places to play, a lot of communities, scenes, etc. My biggest advice for that is go to shows. Go see bands that you're interested in personally, that you think that your band would be a good fit with. Go see them, go meet them, go create community in person at these venues, meet those promoters, meet the people at the venue. It's not even networking, it's just going to shows and having fun. So as long as you're just yourself and at these places, a lot of bands I book, I'm not really like into their music personally, like I don't play them on repeat, but I see them at every show. And I see that they're prioritizing community, and that has huge value to me because that means that they care about the people they're playing with, they care about the people they're playing to, they care about the venue, they care about the witching hours, it's a bigger picture thing. So, moral of the story, go to shows, build community, and hyperlink everything in the email.
Amazing. I'm going to start pulling from some of the questions you all submitted in the RSVPs and sort of bounce around, and our conversation will open up. And then at the end, we'll have some time for in-person Q&As and internet Q&As, you folks. So one of the questions that came up a lot, and there was some talk about it in these introductions, but a lot of people wanted to know about joining tours as support and joining local shows as support. I think that was maybe our most asked question on the RSVPs. So whoever wants to take a stab of wrangling that, by all means. I feel like maybe Eli, as somebody who might have those openings available, how do you source filling out a bill? And then as a booking agent, I'd be curious to hear how you fill out one of your artist things. And
well, I think one thing, we were talking about kind of before this event began, was more and more shows, booking in general, are only having 2 bands on a bill, which oftentimes eliminates opening spots. I think pre-COVID for sure, it was 3 bands, 4 bands. Now I'm seeing a lot more smaller lineups throughout the night to make shows end earlier in general. So that of course means less spots to fill with opening gigs. Most of my shows have tour support in them, or bands they want to add, label mates or agency mates. When I do add local bands like Marina, I have a big list to go through. I'm trying to pair style mostly. Agents, correct me if I'm wrong, want artists who can sell tickets oftentimes. So it's kind of hard finding that balance, especially when a ticket price for a headline show can be, $35, $40, and finding a local act who can sell tickets on that ticket price is hard to do. So just, finding that kind of middle ground between, here's an act who's going to promote the show, they're going to, try their best, sell tickets, but they fit, and they're a cool band, they have stuff going on. So, like I said, it's just a lot of people vying for one spot, but, it does happen.
No, for sure. On my side, a lot of the time when I'm doing a larger routed tour, the artist has maybe a few names in mind, and we'll reach out to them and ask if they're available. Kind of to your point, a lot of the names come from folks that are in their community, artists that they have like personal relationships with that they can handle being on a tour bus with for like a month and a half. So, that helps, again, going out and building those connections with artists that you look up to and stuff, and especially who are local on this level, because you never know if they're going to go on a tour and then they ask you. When I work with a lot of artists who are coming over from Europe, because I work in primarily house and techno, electronic music. When I'm looking for support on a lot of these runs, it's finding connectivity from the international artists to the local scenes. A lot of the time that's curated between myself and the promoter. We kind of work together on building out some names. Again, a lot of the time we'll still send those names to the artist to approve before, but it's kind of us working hand in hand, being like the promoter saying, this is XYZ artists that I trust and I think will do a great job, and then me kind of curating the list down again, musically where I think it's going to be the best pairing, and then bringing it to the artist. So there's a couple different ways that it works, but a lot of the time it's an exchange between artist, agent, promoter, and it's kind of, we're all building it together.
And Omen and Marina, I think both of you talked about sort of musician community as the maybe nexus point for starting tours. This seems central to your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want to?
I suppose the way that I could break that down, and one thing that I would actually because I'm learning a lot here, by the way. It's really interesting that you primarily work with people internationally, because that is a whole different challenge on where is their home when they perform over here. And but of course, even big artists, of course they have fans, so it's it's always worth it, and it's dope. But that has to be a much different challenge than, say, me in Riverside, where I'm from. But I think we kind of, so the sense of community, right? Community is important. Community important in general. Community is what you interact with on a daily basis, even if you don't talk to anybody. You know what I mean? It's especially at this day and age with social media, you pretty much are in a lane. But I think the way we make it real, coming from this internet, Release It Yourself, DSP, SoundCloud, DistroKid, are you going to sign? Do you want to sign? Now when labels and stuff approach me, it's I have a whole different way to weigh all of these decisions than even existed before Windows 1995. So all the communication, all the, it's important to learn old stuff and to understand why things work the way they did. So you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's it's our challenge to figure out why these new things are working and work with, you know what I'm saying, the beautiful minds that have sculpted this to even be fucking possible. So, you know what I mean? But the way we do things when we can't figure out how to do it is, everything's pretty much a party. And then somebody wants to take it really serious, and you start getting eventhelper.com, so you can get your liability insurance and stuff just in case somebody gets hurt or things get stolen or, God forbid, somebody overdoses. Security guards with guard cards. Start making friends with people that you need that aren't musicians. And start encouraging your friends that are good at things that you need them to do for you. You need somebody to stand at a door that can handle either talking to people or whatever that role is in your community. Some people that stand at the door, it's cool clubs, with big buff security guys, because it's that kind of show. And some of them, it's cool soccer moms, because it's that kind of show. Have the right kind of people doing the thing, because it's you need people opening cans of drinks, and you need people to run mixing boards, and you need people to, honestly, if you're the artist, you need cool friends that can go run and do things for you when you get there, grab you water and shit like that. Photographers, kick it with photographers. Really, your friend group just starts to turn into people that can do all these things. But what I see most times is that people have these talents and they have their own ideas, but they don't they're afraid to insert themselves into their own community, for fear of not fitting in with what they love or what they idolize. I had that problem maybe a few times in my life. I've been playing guitar since I was 9 years old. I actually wasn't supposed to be an artist. And even then, being a rapper, for the greater extent of that, I'm not supposed to know how to do all this other stuff either. But learning how to do that helped me respect other people's jobs as well while they're doing them for me. So I think that that's very important. That's kind of what I got.
Yeah, definitely good to keep in mind. just want to echo what everyone else has said really fast. As an artist, every support slot that I've gotten has been through a personal relationship, even like somebody I know through the scene or somebody who I know through online and found my music, or we have similar interests and we find each other's music. So community, like, I just really want to drill that in. That's the number one, because that will lead to so many more. You'll create a team of your
High
friends.
five.
Yeah, you know, you can create a team of your friends. Every friend has a talent that they can provide if they believe in you. So community is
Number one. Cool. Going to something not nearly as deep and poetic. How do we get paid? So you're on tour, and I want to both like logistically, like who's writing the check when, and two, like how do you make sure that check is for what we're worth? And I think there's various takes and experiences here, so we can just go back down, and Marina.
Oh. I get everything on paper. Like, the biggest mistake I was making when I would first start booking shows is I wouldn't ask about the deal. I would just be like, oh, you were excited about this music that I'm pitching and you have this date available? Great, let's do it. Knock it in, you know? No question about how much money all these bands are going to make, how much money the venue's going to be making, and ultimately how much money the promoter/booker is going to be making, which is this little slice of that. So I started asking up front, basically, what the deal would be for this specific show, because venues can have deals for everything. They have a budget every month they work with. I'm sure you can speak more on this. But, you know, you have to ask for the deal for every show, even if you've played at the same venue 100 times. Once you get that on paper, put it somewhere else also. So like an Excel or a one sheet of just like, this is how much money we're going to make at this show. Or, you know, if it's a percentage of the door, you might have to do some math. That's the only kind of crappy part. You want to calculate. Seriously, like sit down and calculate, because then you can kind of gauge how much you could make. You say, okay, this venue has 100 capacity, and we're charging $10 a ticket, and we get 60% of the door. So if we sell out the show, what's the minimum amount of money we'll make? Or basically. And if we don't sell out the show, what's like the worst case scenario? Like, can we cover the expenses of the venue? Certain things like that. I could do a whole workshop on reading deals and how confusing they are. They're not easy, and I think it's on purpose for stupid people like me who can't do math. But it's a whole math, so just get really comfortable with the numbers and get comfortable asking what the deal is and how much you're going to get paid. And if it's with a promoter, make sure it's extra clear what their cut is as well. Like, if you don't ask me how much I'm taking, and all of a sudden, like, I take 10% off the top, and you're like, where did that go? You know, like, make sure you know where all the money is going. And then the night of, the second you meet the person in charge, you say, thank you, where's the green room, and who am I settling with? Two really important things, because then they know you're very serious, you want to get the business done, and then you can have fun. So don't be afraid to ask. You're absolutely allowed to ask those questions. You're absolutely allowed to ask for payment at the end of the night, and you can always bring up the receipt. So have everything, like have the receipts, have everything on paper. And the reality is that deals these days are not that great. I'm having a hard time in town finding places that pay appropriately, or don't put a lot of the venue expense burden on the artist instead of themselves or the consumer, the customer. So just know that it is generally really hard right now, and I don't mean that as a discouragement, but I mean that as a reality of the situation. Prepare to have to ask for more, basically. You won't get paid fairly up front.
And I will say, just to add some color from my work at UMAW, I've had a lot of conversations with artists about organizing in the music space, and it's very easy, because we all like really like what we do, to be like, money's not an issue, like I get to like play music, it's fine. Cool, but remember, somebody made money by you playing a show. Like, and just ask yourself, who was the person that made money? Was it the bar? Was it the bartender? Was it the venue owner? Was it the owner of Live Nation? Was it the restaurant next door that made, a full night's worth of work? Like, you didn't make money, but somebody did. And I think keeping that in your back of your mind will empower you to ask those questions that Marina is talking about. Because we should be making money. Somebody is, so we should be too. And if we're not, then we need to ask questions like, why aren't we? Who is? And how do we stop them from making money and we make money? And that's not saying that venues shouldn't make money. And I'll throw it to Eli, saying, can you lift the curtain of Oz a little bit and talk about the stuff that we don't know? Because so often, as a musician myself, I'll go and I have no idea what happens in the back room or the upstairs office and I'm just I don't know, I just did a thing.
Well, first off, let me say, as an independent venue, we do not make a lot of money. I strive to break even most nights, at least on paper. Granted, the bar is a different beast, but people in general are drinking less and less at shows than they were prior to this. But overall, it's not fair to our artists, especially opening acts. For me as a buyer, a talent buyer, my blame would be placed more so on the agent or management because, we set the support budget in advance. It's not negotiable night or show for the most part, and we figure out a flat amount, months before the show's even announced. So that's kind of how it is, and usually it's not a lot of money. It's a couple $100 if you're lucky. I think, merch sales are kind of where it's at as far as making money on top of that goes. I can proudly say we're a venue that does not take a merch cut from artists. But overall, it's not fair to opening acts how little you're getting paid per show, and that really number has not changed a lot in the last 10-ish years that I've been doing this job. But you're right. Someone's making money. It's not us, so I don't know who it is.
It's me.
Yeah.
It certainly is when you're playing a Live Nation.
Well, yeah, somebody. And usually in the night, we're the people paying the artists. So usually we get the dirty looks, we get the blame. Why is this payment so low? But if you really broke down how much it costs to operate a show that's, say, it's not sold out, it's expensive. Wages have gone up, rent has gone up, everything has gone up, and with that, our ticket fees have gone up and our drink prices have gone up, which is just kind of the buck being passed to the audience, which is not fair, but that's kind of the world we live in. So it is hard, I think, to really change that outside of, I think for me, I think the payment has to be changed from more or less the headliner who kind of is making the bulk of the money, and they can kind of decide, this budget can be X amount of money versus what it is now. Piggybacking on what Marina said is don't forget to get paid, because you'd be surprised at how many bands leave Lodge Room without getting paid. And a lot of them don't follow up with us, and we'll hit them up once or twice saying, come get your check, and they never come get it. So please remember to get paid.
Or have a really solid tour manager who makes sure you get paid, or a trusted friend. I was gonna say too, on the artist side, I think when I'm working with artists kind of starting out, I ask the question what is your bare minimum costs, and how can we have those covered per show? And it's really up to you to sit down and run those numbers. Am I going to fly to all these shows? Am I going to drive? How much does that cost? And really sitting down and have a number in mind where you're I need to make X, Y, Z to at least break even and do this and have it be worth my time. Or if I am going to lose money, is it worth it? Is this tour going to get me in front of the audience and people that I want to be in front of? Is it not going to take a toll on me to the point that I'm financially not stable after this? You know what I mean? There's a lot of factors, and it is true. I think at the support acts, I agree. There's, it's something I encourage our headliners to think about a lot who are going on tour. How do we pay these artists fairly? Just because the cost of travel is going up, all the time. So it's really important to be conscious of that. But yeah, I think just that my word of advice is just know what your bare minimum costs are, so you can actually really realistically run the numbers before you kind of go on the road. Because there's so many times that artists, will be halfway through a tour and they're like, oh my God, and start freaking out, and they're like, I need to get paid now, and it's it causes a lot of stress, and sometimes that's unavoidable. But at least if you know what you're getting yourself into prior to stepping into those situations, it helps a lot.
I know I started, but I want to say one more thing. The biggest advice, this kind of goes with support slot submissions as well, but also financial reasons. If you're a band, have a duo or solo set ready to go at all times, because that 250 support guarantee, which hasn't changed since, I kid you not, 1995, it will only go so far. So just think about that as an ability to cut your expenses down and also look really delicious to an artist or a booking agent. Having somebody that can get off stage really fast is really good. So something to keep in mind.
Drummers everywhere are crying.
I see drummer come along the most than any other instrument. I gotta say that. They bring the drummer.
Well, I think this is a good point to segue into sort of like what I'll call the visioning part of this conversation. And we spend a lot of time at UMAW asking people to imagine what the industry should work like, or how they want it to look, or how it can best represent and support them. So to throw it to all of you, what do you want to see in booking, in venues, in fair treatment? What is standard payment? How should artists be treated? What are minimums that we should expect for local shows? What should support slot number be at? If it hasn't changed in 30 years, what should it be now? And just a little bit about imagining a more just and equitable touring economy from you all.
Loaded question, my friend.
I think it would be cool, and this is like hypothetical, like perfect world scenario, like especially in the US, like the US is probably like the biggest country that has like the biggest musical export with like zero government funding for artists, and it's like actually insane. Like if you're a Canadian artist, the amount of grants that my Canadian artists get all the freaking time is nuts. Same with the UK, same with France, same with Germany. It's like the support for the arts like in so many other countries is just amazing, and that's why you see a lot of artists internationally come over here, because a lot of the time those artists can afford to pay for those visa costs and put themselves on the road. They have that extra support, which a lot of American artists don't. It's really messed up. So I think it would be really cool to find ways to, again, perfect scenario world, approach brands, and companies to kind of step up and be the supporter of the arts. Vans Warp Tour is the first thing that comes to mind, but something like in that kind of, like if those were happening on like smaller scales, in LA and New York and stuff like that. But I think that's like number one would be a really great place, because I think the biggest hurdle is financially, how do I do this, and if you don't have like support financially to kind of get yourself off the ground, who's going to do that? And I think it's finding those types of like people to invest in you. So.
And I will say Maxwell Frost, Congress member from Florida, last year introduced a bill to create a U.S. grant program akin to the Canadian system. Obviously, given our Congress, that will not pass. But if we all get together and yell loudly enough, that's how that shit does pass. So yeah, and I'll pass it along for more people visioning some just work.
My thing is, I really do think that Live Nation, Ticketmaster, AEG, Golden Voice, the big dogs have kind of taken over control of the entire industry, and it's had a negative impact across I think, every aspect possible. So I kind of think, until those major corporations who control so much of every part of this, make some concessions to making things more affordable, it's so hard for independent venues to lower their pricing, to pay more artists more if I'm competing with, companies that can, afford to lose money. They can afford to kind of do whatever they want. And I know it's been a couple of artists lately trying to fight back at some of that. Taylor Swift with Ticketmaster, Willie Nelson, The Cure, and not many acts have succeeded with that. But I do think the power to that kind of lies within the artists, especially, to decide, this tour, I want to make it an independent tour. I want to use an independent ticket provider. I want to use, I think they are the only ones who really could say, I want to make a change in this tour, and hopefully if that happens once or twice, artists will follow suit. And there are some indie acts who do play independent venues prominently, which is great, but it is pretty few and far between.
Yeah, of course. I love everything that you guys are saying. I think that common saying goes all the way back down to, and it's annoying, but the "it starts with us" thing, right? What I actually would want to see more, though, from like artists from like my community, like starting with myself too, is more like understanding and respect for, like, say, artists to promoter or artists to this and that, like, because my relationship with you affects like how everything goes at the venue and like so on and so forth. Like, as opposed to like these big companies like Live Nation and things like that, that always goes one way and the other. But the venues have relationships with how those shows go, and there's things that they like and don't like about major corporate shows. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these venue owners are just as much into the culture of it as we are, you know what I'm saying? But I think where it falls off a little bit is, like she said, going out and showing up in person and doing this like that, like we need to, like, even in passing, just spend a little more time being seen, respecting each other in front of other people, you feel me? Like, it can't just be just all this internet stuff and texting. Like, that's what I'm all about. Like, maybe I can use this little, like, example to try to ask for your guys' advice. I'm working on another tour right now, and it's all up here, right? But it's called the Flowers Tour. And so the whole concept of it is because a lot of people in my industry that I started making music with aren't even here anymore. And along with, everybody goes through these things in life, right? But it's got a couple angles on it. One is that, that common saying, give them the flowers while they're still here. Well, this event would be an opportunity to do that. So if you bring some flowers, you get a free T-shirt. Now, that just, to me, kind of helps set like a vibe. It gives the fans something to do with their hands. Maybe they can give the flowers to an artist. They can bring their girl. They can, bring their brother, their sister, something like that. It would look tight having a wall, like a line outside with everybody holding flowers. People would be like, "What is this? What's going on?" You know what I mean? Like, it's very small, cheap, and like it's a friendly reminder. You know what I mean? Of just, I like events that get everybody involved and everybody like interacted with. I hate standing on the stage and like being seen, like just being me, because that's not who I am. I'm like a family man, but I just do this shit for you guys. But you know what I mean? What do you guys think about that? Do you think that that's like an affordable like idea? Do you think that that's a cool idea? Like, how would you promote it? Can I ask you questions like that?
Please.
Yeah, I mean, that I love a theme. I think anything that involves crowd participation, really great. Something that has a meaning and creates community, A+ in my book. Financially possible, maybe. You might need to get some cheap shirts.
Yeah.
But it would be a really cool reminder of what you did that night if you brought flowers and got that shirt. So,
Right.
or a sticker or something.
Yeah.
Brand sponsor.
Oh, somebody has something.
That'd be tight.
Somebody out there has some. A button.
Buttons.
Oh yeah, all right. Shaped like a flower.
Would you like a button more or a shirt though? If you,
Put him in a weird position. Put them in a weird.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, what do you have?
Any other grand ideas before we?
Oh,
we
I have a grand idea.
hit us.
I mean, gosh, I was gonna talk about like, I wish artists got paid more, and that there's more organizations like Rising Artists Foundation that are making grants. Yeah, shout out. Creating grants for non-classical musicians, because we're musicians too. My bass is sideways, so what? I feel like to me, really the biggest issue that I'm running into as an organizer is people being dicks. Like really, really mean. Really mean. I like don't get paid to do this at all. And sometimes I'm spending months doing this. Like we work on stuff for months before it comes to reality, and we see even a cent of it. Like we work on commission, a lot of us. So it's like being mean on top of that. I mean, I understand to a degree the stress that everyone's under right now. Like we all hate Live Nation. We all hate Golden Voice. Clip that. But it's nothing like it's all being displaced at our own community. It's artists getting jealous of each other and talking shit on each other behind their backs after they had a good show. Like it's people being rude to organizers, people being rude to sound people, venue people, bar people, like management, agents. A lot of these people, talent buyers at the venues, are working with even higher ups that are screwing them over and making their job impossible, and they end up looking like the bad guy every night. So I hope for more humanity from this industry. I hope we can all see like we're not the enemy each other. It's a much bigger, scarier, Sauron-esque enemy that we have to defeat together. Like, it's not the person next to you that got a bigger show than you did, or it's not the promoter who happens to also be playing a show the same night. Like, we can all do our jobs, and together it'll be so much better if we're just like nice to each other.
Yeah.
I don't mean to take it down there, like.
And also from my vantage point, I think it is a Sauron-esque monster, but they also have names, and you can also yell at those specific people until they give us what we want. Yeah. And I think that's like the primary role of something like UMAW, where in our South by Southwest campaign, that person's name was Jay Penske. And Jay Penske was the person deciding to not pay artists who played South by Southwest. He was the person deciding to have defense contractors support South by Southwest. And learning who those people are and how to leverage our power to say, no, fuck that, Jay Penske, friend of Trump and evil person, you won't be able to get away with this because we all said no. And that's the role that UMAW plays, because many musicians have done it, because we all came together during COVID and said, oh wait, are you also being screwed over by these same people? Shit, maybe we should like do something, and instead of getting mad at each other, start getting mad at whoever is that Sauron monster.
So true. There's names. We know what they look like. Dox their addresses. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I like, we know we have the face to the enemy. We just gotta remind ourselves who the enemy actually is. And kind of going off that, like, we yelled so hard at Live Nation that a lot of them stopped taking merch cuts. Willie Nelson came in and was like, here's money. And we're like, great, this is what we want. Like, we need to make it so uncool to be a predatory venue or establishment that, like, socially, even the common consumer, not just us musicians, even the fan online, speak up about it, you know, like, say it, tell the name, you know, we hate Daniel Ek, like, we know who to be against. Say it to your fans, say it to your community. eventually we'll make enough of a ruckus that things will change because we'll make it so socially uncool and cringy to take merch cuts that they will stop. So we love this. Just UMAW, sign up for what's good.
Beautiful. Well, that might be a good segue to taking questions. We have some questions in a queue online, but we'll start with y'all beautiful people in this room. So raise your hand. I'll call. Yeah.
How far out are a lot of shows scheduled? I mean, like, what's the first?
At least 5 months,
5 months.
at least, to get a good date.
I'll respond to the question.
Oh, right.
So the question was, how far out are shows booked?
Even if I'm not like formally confirming the shows, generally I have an outline of what the tour is going to look like a year in advance. Sometimes longer.
Especially with international, yeah.
I'm just kind of OCD and weird like that, but
No, but you want to make sure you get the best dates,
Yeah.
and those are taken far in advance, and it's totally changed from pre-lockdown. I don't know about y'all.
Oh, it's gone so far in advance. I used to like confirm shows like a couple weeks out, which still happens like last minute every so often, but generally like I have at least a roadmap or an idea of what an artist wants to accomplish a year in advance. And that's why, and again, sometimes I will wait to not even confirm those things until 6 months out, but at least I know. And that's kind of when people are planning stuff. So that's why even if your favorite artist isn't on tour yet, they could be in a year or be planning that and not telling anybody about it yet.
Eli, what far out month is locked at Lodge Room?
About a year out right now, so we're booking some shows for September of next year.
That's so crazy.
A few, not a lot, but a few. And definitely more foreign acts than U.S. acts because of visa stuff.
Cool. All right, going to, unless, did anyone else have?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah. Hit us on.
Okay, my last show I did, right? I flew to Texas 3 months ago. Well, I flew to North Carolina to see my folks, and then I drove to Ohio to meet my brother. He's 23 years old now, and I just met him. Pretty cool. Went down to Houston, though, and I was sleeping at my friend's store. It's called Faded Decade. It's next to Studio 713. Cool studio, cool store. We put a show together in like a week, and then we got hit by a hurricane. But it was cool because we made friends at the show and we cooked out for like 3 days out front. It was great. But the more time, the better. I'm actually like mind blown she said a year because I could never. I would change my mind so fast.
It happens.
Good job.
It definitely changed, yeah.
Good job.
I could never do it in 3 weeks, so
We can do them in a day and pop up under the freeway for sure.
that's amazing.
Yeah, just tap in.
So, question from the internet. Can you talk through, at various levels of the industry, what you would want to be paid like a dollar? Like, you're going on tour, you're playing 100-cap venue. What is, like, you're expected? You're playing a 300, 500,000 cap venue. Like, what are you hoping to
I
get?
need a professional to expect that for me. Because generally speaking, right, our shows were like $10 a show. Like my last tour that I did was in 2018. Then I moved to Riverside and I got like my first house and I was doing shows in my backyard again. And then COVID happened. And for like our lane, when COVID happened, like my fans don't have money because I don't really even have money like that, typically speaking, where I come from. So when COVID hit, like, they can't buy T-shirts. Like, fuck that. So, I get it. So, like, I stopped selling T-shirts, and I stopped really stressing about all that shit. But, like, what, $10 a ticket, 300 tickets, it's $3,000. But, like, okay, but then how much is the Airbnb and then gas? And, you should give everybody a little something. And you're probably going to eat that night. You're definitely going to drink something. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's like all the money isn't necessarily for you. What I can say, like, the way I always look at it is, like, I always booked it myself. So you have your door fees, right? And then you have paying it down up front, right? We booked, like, 20 shows that didn't exist. and I had people getting tickets just so I could pay for the venue. And then if it didn't work out, I had to refund everybody and then cancel the show. But like a clever ruse, it worked. But don't take my advice though, because with that said, now everything's paid for and nobody's getting paid, for sure. Because, you know, I mean, but like the way we looked at it and the way that it actually works out for me is, you know, like you get streams from like doing things and like you stay creative and interesting. If you want to keep it really simple, like I would just do shows to get more streams. And then by the time I came home, I would get more money every 3 months. You know what I mean? So even if we were breaking even on shows, I never had to like look at it all the way in that light. I'm not in a 4-piece band, mind you. I used to be in a band. Very difficult. I switched to a laptop. Mobile, affordable, spur of the moment, Hulu, Netflix. So
What are you binging on stage?
House of Dragons, we just finished. Where's Sev at? My friend just had a baby, so we've been trying to figure stuff out. And Game of Thrones is killer with a newborn.
It's true.
Not the content, hour-long episodes. He's only 6 weeks old. He can't see shit. But just did House of Dragons yesterday, started Game of Thrones. I'm like 10 years late. When did it come out? 10 years ago. Yeah, I just watched episode 1 today. 1, 2, and 3, so I'm getting in there.
No spoilers, folks. Eli, what can you say about numbers and figures for shows?
I mean, there's so many variables to that. You know, one thing I will say is a lot of acts want guarantees now versus a door deal. You know, in my mind, it should be kind of common sense. It should be, if you sell tickets, you make money. If you don't sell tickets, you don't make money. But so many acts want a guarantee, which just kind of makes that hard to base things off of. But, you know, I think at any given show, you should be making, headlining artists should be making it, you know, 60 to 80% of the door should go to them. In an ideal world, that's probably a little generous from a lot of venues, but that's what it should be if you sell out and you sell tickets to it.
From $1.
From $1, yeah.
Can you explain what that means? From $1 and
Me.
or in anyone.
Oh,
That
yeah.
wasn't English.
I mean, you guys
Yeah,
have
I mean-
better understanding of deal structures constantly.
Yeah, just you're getting paid off of ticket sales directly. It's not after expenses, not after any venue costs. It's tickets $10, you get $6 of that every ticket sold, kind of thing.
Yeah, like my favorite kind of deal structure. Again, I think it's hard to set a base amount per like capacity of a venue. I think it's more about what is the experience that you're trying to convey. Like, are you trying to like make a bag and like charge everyone $50 who walks in through the door, or do you want to have this be like a big community event where everyone pays like $5 and you don't really walk away? I think it's just, you need to have in your head, if you're the headliner versus, you know, being a support act, what's the message I'm trying to convey by doing this show, you know, and then again having that very specific set expenses. How much is it going to actually take for me to do this show? Always constantly in your head. I think that's how you can kind of judge what your, you know, what that fee is going to be for you and what makes sense for you to do it. My favorite deal structure, and it's, you know, is a versus deal a lot of the time where an artist does get some sort of guarantee, and that is also to help their production, you know, or their expenses. But then both the promoter and the artist, if the show does well, walk away with money. Yeah, with a bonus, essentially. So it's like, those are my favorite deal structures when working, especially with independent promoters and venues. And I think it's the most fair because it's the artist still makes money and they have a set fee that they know that they're going to walk away with. But then there's the, you know, if the show does really well and we feel like it will, everyone walks away with a little bit more. So,
Marina, does that scale down to 100 cap venues?
Normally they're not as open for.
Should it scale down to 100 cap
I
venues?
I think a versus deal is probably as fair as it gets for both the artist and the venue. The guarantee might be really small, and you might be working with that. But the versus part is that if you do really well, it's incentive that you'll make more than that guarantee. So just to break it down for anybody who's not familiar with this or booking themselves, the versus deal is, an example would be $200 guarantee versus 60% of the door after 150 expenses. So that would be either you make $200 or 60% of the door after the venue expenses is more than $200, you make that. So it kind of gives you and the venue and the promoter many times an incentive to promote the show better because you will make more money. At the same time, you're covering a little bit of your basic expenses, and you know that like there's 100 things that can go wrong in LA that makes a show go bad, even like rain. So you have some kind of security. I think that's the most fair, but I do want to note that most people don't know you can pick your ticket price. You should say what ticket price you want to set. You can do that math yourself. You can say, how much have I charged for tickets before? How much more could I charge, or should I stay the same? How much is the venue charging for tickets? What is their crowd used to? Probably shouldn't go over that. These are all things that you can do the math and set for yourself. So when you ask for the deal, you make sure you get that list of venue expenses that they're going to be charging you before you see a cut of the door, and you ask them set questions.
And you can also ask for the deal, right?
Yeah, definitely. Ask for the deal and set the ticket price. You can tell them anything really, except like, I don't want to pay that or something, you know. Like, yeah.
Cool.
Can I ask a question real quick? It's like in this realm. So like, I'm an artist. So like, how does a residency work? And in my mind, is it true that, because you guys are talking a lot about numbers, but something that I have easily learned to appreciate over these 9 years of doing this is, do you know that like the reason to work with a professional is not really necessarily only for them to curate your crowd? Like, for example, I don't like have other people curate my fans. It's like a lot of social media for years, but like if you feel like you don't need that kind of help because you know you're confident or whatever, like people that do what they do for the most part can like get residencies at venues, which means they get the venue for cheaper than you will by yourself. So by proxy, you're already going to make more money because the venue has a better relationship with you guys. Venues don't want to deal with artists, especially if you're like me. Like they would just prefer to just talk to somebody that will talk to you. And honestly, you should prefer that too. You have shit to do. You know what I mean? You have to like get up. You have to get your set ready last fucking minute because that's when we all do it, even after it's done. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good to have people communicate for you in that sense. But before I get away from my question, like, how does all that work? And is what I'm saying true, or is it my misconception?
I think like in my world, what I would like quote as like a residency, maybe more on like a local level, is if you have like if you're a local artist and you have like a relationship with a promoter who like books you consistently, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I work with Lights Down Low, for example, and they have like a set, like 10 people that they pick from a lot of the time to open the nights. And I think that's, again, it goes back to community. How do you get that? You have to show up to the parties a lot of time and build that relationship for yourself. It's cool because a lot of the time those resident artists have something that is consistent income for them, which is like really hard to get sometimes when you're an independent artist. So those things are great to have. But it just comes back down to your relationship. And also on a local level, how you promote the shows. A lot of the time, promoters will put a resident on if they know the show needs a certain amount of attention, and so it's an exchange. It's great for you because you get exposed to a lot of different people and artists that come through. You have a relationship that you build, and you have consistency in income and being able to play. So that's kind of, in my world, that's kind of what a resident means. So. I know it changes, kind of varied on scenario.
I think in my world, what I'm thinking it is like
recurring shows in the same place or in the same venue.
it's meeting a promoter that does
Yeah.
recur shows in the same venue. Like if I'm going to San Antonio, for example, my friend has a residency at the Rock Box
Yeah.
or the Corova when it did exist. Like the reason to work with the promoter, like I'm saying to understand like their job and to understand yours at the same
Yeah.
time is the reason to work with them is like these benefits are being made available to you for like what they do for like a week in and week out basis. And
Yeah, I hear what
you know what I mean?
I hear what
Like,
you mean.
and like that's really important to not shoulder yourself and to like, you know what I mean, to consider. Because especially when doing work with a promoter, like a lot of us get this back and forth. We all hear in the rap community, rapping and promoters is everybody complains, bro. Everybody complains.
No, it's the same.
Until
like,
the,
it's
until
every-
the, until the
everywhere.
show is
Everywhere.
over.
Always get
Yeah.
the blame. Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's like,
residencies are great. I mean, they're a relationship that you need to build with the venue yourself or with the promoter. They're a great way to get your community out. They're a great way to elevate your friends, elevate your scene. It's optics amazing. You know, you look really good if you have a residency. It looks great on paper, on your resume, if you will. Like, it's just something that you should aim for. It's a lot of work, I will say that. And a lot of the times you're working with a small budget for each show. They'll give you a set budget for each show of the residency that you've agreed to, and that's what you got to work with. But it is something that I would definitely put on your checklist. LA venues, specifically the smaller ones, are really open to artists pitching them. You know, you just come with lineups and be like, I want to do every Monday for 4 months, or the first Monday for 4 months or something, you know. Do all the work, present it to them, and they'll probably say yes. They don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be booking full lineups all the time. Like, you don't want to be like, that's not, we don't have time to do that all the time. So the more you provide, the easier chance you'll have to do a residency.
you complete me.
Any other questions in the room? Yeah.
What do you, when you look at social or Spotify, are you just looking at numbers? What are you really considering, like, on a social account? Like, content, interaction, engagement, numbers? What is it, what's most important, or is it all of it?
All of it.
Zach, can
The
you just
question,
repeat
really quick.
Oh yeah, sorry for internet.
Internet.
The question was, what do you look at on socials? And I think this is probably for all the panelists, especially two in the middle. What do you look at in socials as far as numbers, interactions, what social media platforms, yeah, streaming, etc.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's like also kind of like an open-ended question, right? Because, you know, I think that I am a fan of artists that have very limited social stuff and also artists that have crazy social stuff. I think, again, kind of going back to my point of like when I'm actually looking at artists and kind of deciding who I want to take on, the socials I definitely do take into consideration. I think a lot of the time it is how they interact with socials. Does their social media like convey a story to me that's clear and that I can tell fans are engaging with and understanding? I think you can look at stuff and you can kind of see who does it really well and who might be just kind of just there. You know what I mean? So I think it's unfortunately social media is now a tool in our society. I don't think it's something to be scared of or shy away from, but you can utilize the tool regardless of what your social numbers are to convey what you're trying to convey as an artist. And I think that's what's really important is like how you're using it. And I think you'll find the artists that are able to kind of like lock into their community and their sphere, they do start having a lot of success with numbers and streams and stuff. And that kind of, it all relates. The streaming stuff is tricky because, I think on a local level, I don't really look at the streaming numbers per se, like when I'm looking at acts to maybe participate or jump onto shows. But streaming stuff is a lot of time dictated by playlisting. And playlisting a lot of the time is pitched from labels. So that stuff, it's kind of comes from a larger level, especially if we're talking about like a Spotify, right? It's not necessarily fan interaction all the time. It's a lot of like plugging into certain things where you are going to get played, and that comes from like a different level, So it's tricky to kind of gauge that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Bailey said there. Numbers unfortunately do matter somewhat to what I do. Passing along links to agents about your support acts. Obviously the more streams looks better than not. It's not an end all by any means, but it definitely has some impact there. For me personally, I go online and look at socials to try and see if the artist has done a good job promoting past shows. If they're active in social media, you'd be surprised how many acts will get on a show and just won't promote it at all, and I have to go and ask them to do so, which is really frustrating. It's how few local acts I can book on shows in a given month. It does make a big deal. Your first impression is a big deal on me. So if you're not promoting a show the first time I book you on a show, odds are I'm not coming back next time around to book you again.
I will say I got advice once to delete old show posters from my Instagram because it wasn't as aesthetically pleasing as your pictures. Is that a no-go?
I think that's bad advice. I mean, aesthetically, you are absolutely correct. Then make your own flyers so it matches your aesthetic. But yeah, definitely looking at how you present yourself and how you communicate with your online community and your fans. And I will say, the people that have like 120,000 Instagram followers and like 5 comments on their posts, I don't trust those people. And you shouldn't either. I don't trust like that.
We did have a request from the internet for you to repeat the 2 things to ask when you walk into a venue that you said.
Oh. The 2 things to ask when you walk to the venue. Well, number 1, where's the green room? Number 2, who's paying me?
Beautiful.
Tattoo that.
We got any other questions here in the room?
I think we're gonna try using this
sorry.
mic as well. It
Yeah,
seems
thank you.
long enough. You might have to, we might have to meet halfway.
Come stand over here. David Murphy.
Hey, what's up? So they have the Passman book out in the front, which is obviously a great resource, but I was wondering if, for individually of any of you, if there are other books or websites or resources that you use either for industry knowledge or technical advice or even creative inspiration or anything that you've really found is a nice, something to have in your hands to keep fresh.
And in case that mic isn't going to the live stream, the question is, what resources do you use for creative inspiration and more logistical business advice?
I learned nothing from a book. That's my advice. I learned everything I know as a photographer coming into this with like not even business experience from everybody that was around me and my community. Like my peers, the people that I look to as mentors, and the people that I look to like creatively engage with me and inspire me. So I think, yes, you can read all this stuff in a book, but you got to just get your hands dirty and do it.
Trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trial and
Yeah,
error.
it's like read first and then like trial and error, but like know the trial and error part is always coming if you're going to try to do something, especially something new, and especially something that is supposed to change your life and it's supposed to change your mind, body, and soul. Trial and error is a motherfucker. Reading is cool. I mean, I guess.
Creative
I get
inspiration.
some emails
Nerd.
and stuff that are cool sometimes. YouTube is better. Reading is cool. YouTube is better. YouTube, trial and error, rinse, repeat. I really did that.
I feel that. I've heard, I can't believe I'm recommending a book I've never read. The Artist's Way, for everyone who is an artist and has not read it yet. I heard that's life-changing, will get you out of a rut if you're stuck. Will give you some more empathy for yourself. This is all first-hand witnesses. That's not me, but definitely add that to your book.
I will also say, from this discussion, we will be making some videos that will live on YouTube. So this information can go on inspiring you and other artists. And we'll also be making some downloadable, concretely usable things, maybe explaining a versus deal and stuff like that, that I certainly wish I had booking shows
The UMAW Instagram is an excellent resource. Also, super educational, constantly up to date with whatever's happening in the music industry. Like, I get 100% of my news from UMAW.
Also, there's two artists, Octo Octa and Eris Drew, who they're a DJ couple, and they're trans. They have a website called Trans for Trans, T4T, and they have come together to build out like a working PDF that's linked on their website that tells you how to tour as an artist, and it's honestly amazing, and it's such a good resource, and it's like how to build an artist writer, and they've like detailed how they do it, and it's really a credible free resource. So
Love it.
there are artists that do that and spend the time to do that, depending on where your community is, but that's one that I know off the top of my head that's amazing, and they're constantly updating it with information, and they're touring artists, so it's really cool.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Amazing.
That rocks. Thanks so much.
T4T, Love Energy, T4, yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely, as Zach said, we'll be aggregating some of this and trying to fill in the blanks as well to give people new documents that we can't find online. But there's also one that I can't think of, but we'll put it on the Rising Artist Instagram. That's like a way to eat if you have eating restrictions and you're touring. If you have to eat like halal, vegetarian, vegan, whatever. They're just being able to like sort cities throughout the country with that. So there's things out there that help you out. Are there any other questions in here? Yes.
Hello, what's up, y'all? Thank you so much.
What's your name?
Rodell, hello. This is half question and I guess half shameless plug. Because I manage a venue over in Eagle Rock called the Harmony Room. And so I really believe in what we're doing, and it feels like what we're doing is resonating with a lot of the vision that I'm hearing in terms of making sure artists get paid, trying to make it sure it's a easy, straightforward process to perform and get paid, so on and so forth. And so I think the biggest thing I'm hearing too is just like the difficulty that comes with like finding each other, right? And knowing what to do when we find each other. And so I guess two questions. One, what advice would you have for a small independent venue in terms of just being useful and sustainable to the larger community? And two, are there any spaces, places, venues that you feel like the cutting edge, are the inspiration for kind of like the future visions that we've been talking about? So thank you.
Scribble.
Yes.
And again, just in case the mic isn't connected to the live stream, runs Harmony Room in Eagle Rock. Questions about what to do when you find community and how to support that community as a venue, and who to look towards who is like doing the good work as a venue.
I guess my only advice would just be, filling the space as much as you can in a unique way. So many hours of the day, my venue sits empty, and I wish we did more, daytime stuff with the spot. It's obviously kind of expensive to open up a little bit and turn the lights on, but I just think it's just a waste of opportunity and time and space being dark, 3/4 of the day. Whether that's, that's yoga classes, stuff like this, workshops, hosting video shoots, just making yourself available for other things than just a concert.
Let me check it out. I like everything that this guy's saying, honestly, because that's something huge to consider is what are you doing with the space when you're not doing a show? So I used to have a spot in by Santee Alley. It was a 2-story warehouse. I lived upstairs. I had a studio on the 2nd floor. We did shows on Saturdays in the alley. We printed clothes in there, and we also shipped them from there. So the whole downstairs, it used to be a laundromat, so we had a bunch of places to hang shit up. Find a bunch of different ways to utilize what's going to bring your community or have your community around. Because, again, once you start doing a lot of those things, you get a feng shui, and, people kind of know what the coffee shop's all about. You know what I'm saying? I know you're just not a coffee shop, but you know what I mean? What is your community that you're going for? Or that you represent?
It's interesting. So a very multi-purpose space already, which I think makes it difficult. So it's run out of a church in Eagle Rock. And so it's a church, it's also a preschool, it's also, you know, providing space to all these other people. And so I guess in terms of...
What kind of shows do you guys do there? That's a unique vibe.
Yeah, it's been a lot of jazz and folk shows so far.
I can see jazz going.
Yeah,
in there
we've
for sure.
started, really wanting to be like a staple in the jazz scene. But I think open to all kinds of things. And again, especially as we're more and more, I think, learning kind of the bigger vision of like organizing musicians, of like what the music scene is right now and all the various powers that be that, you know, are threatening it. Want to kind of step into a bigger role in that. And so I guess I'm really just, again, as a small independent venue, just like how do we make ourselves easier to find, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Be here. I mean, that helped me find
Yeah.
you. So, like, seriously. So take that science and keep applying it.
Yeah, you're here tonight. Huge first step. Hi, by the way. And I feel like just stick to the people that organize, you know, like the folks that put shows together, the bands that care about the people they're playing with, you know. Some bands will just focus on how they're playing a show and not ever think about everybody else on the lineup. Just focus on the people that do, because those folks will create an atmosphere of supporting each other, and they'll bring people also. So, like, it's a kind of a win-win. A lot of people... You know, I've fallen into this trap too, you know, like the TikTok trap, where the TikTok artist comes over and is like, I have 1,000,000,005 streams, and I'm going to sell out this small venue, and like, you know, maybe you will, but I don't know you. I don't know who you run with. I don't know who you're going to bring into my space, and every single energy that you bring into your space is going to affect the outcome. So having a very clear image, like you do, of what you want the space to be, which is a staple in the jazz community, is like, you already know, like, Scribble is going to be a staple in mental health and music and artists. And like, you've got the mission, just run with it. People that believe in your mission will be attracted to that, and then you'll just grow from there with the right people.
So thank you all so much for being here and doing this.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Zach, and UMAW and Rising Artists Foundation and Scribble.